Hey everybody, welcome to episode 1 of Bills Mathia, which is titled This, which is in Elvish. If you'd like to translate your own words or phrases into Elvish, I did link a tool in the description, but for today's video, let's just get it out of the way here. This translates to one stat to rule them all and in the records bind them, which for me is my overarching philosophy for how I approach stats when I'm watching and enjoying football. There is a risk when we're diving into stats and numbers to essentially have this matrix like situation in front of us where this waterfall or avalanche, however you want to visualize this, of numbers becomes really overwhelming and very difficult to kind of translate. And there are just so many stats numbers to be able to immerse yourself in that my personal philosophy is really to be able to focus on and almost become the Neo of football, which is to be able to take the numbers and create images or stories or, really this kind of concept out of things. And to start with that, before we get to this idea of the one stat, let's take a look at a couple of teams and see what we can kind of glean about their stories, almost like peering into the matrix. So for team one, we have a 13-3 record, which is pretty phenomenal. Now, I'm a big fan of points per drive, so I did lean on those for my offensive and defensive statistics for our team one and team two comparisons. And I'm also going to give a little bit of a shout out to my own rule of four, which I can link you to if you want to see that. But they are the second highest team in the league for this year in points scored per drive, which puts them firmly in that elite category of those top four teams. Now, for our defensive stat, fifth lowest points allowed. That means they're just outside of that elite status of top four, but they're still in the significantly above average group of 5 to 8. Now for team two, we have a 9-7 record, definitely not as good. And for our offensive statistics for the season, they're 11th highest. Now a lot of people like top 10s. I'm not a big fan of top 10. They're out of the top 8. So for teams 9 through 24, that falls into what I would consider the average category. So this is a team with a fairly average offense. And you may have just caught the numbers that I threw out there. The 24th or 25th lowest points allowed. 24th would be my cutoff for average. So this is a team that is just starting to fall on the fringe of bad. Now, we could certainly discuss a lot of these team stories using these or other similar, statistics, but I want to circle back to the point of today's video, which is one stat to rule them all and in the records bind them. So we're going to take a look at the final play of the season for each of these two teams, and you probably already guessed this one. Team one is the 2022 Buffalo Bills. So here we have fourth quarter, time is running out. They're down by 3 scores. This is pretty much already over. But here's the final play, just so we can live in agony one more time. This interception sealed the deal. This was the last, basically, memory of the season. And now we're going to compare that to the 2011 New York Giants in the final play of their season, which of course came in the Super Bowl. A tight end whose name I don't really want to mention goes up for the ball. The Patriots are only down by 1 score, so this was a meaningful play. As you can see, it is tipped by the Giants, and the ultimate point comes right here as the ball hits the ground. This defines their season. And of course, the definition we're looking at is a Super Bowl victory. So what is the one stat that we're talking about? Well, of course, it's the prize. It's the idea that there can be only one. So the one stat to rule them all is simply this binary concept of, did your team win a championship? Now, why is this the only stat that matters? Well, ask yourself, if you're watching this, you're probably a Buffalo Bills fan. Which of the two seasons would you actually prefer? You probably would prefer the 9-7, resulting in a Super Bowl win. So it's not that the other stats don't tell part of the picture. It's not that they don't help, fill in some of the matrix. It's just that when you start bringing in these other ones, this clutter, there's always a rebuttal. Well, Josh Allen's PFF ranking is, well, yeah, but we get a 0 here. Well, the Bills really had a high EPA. Well, yeah, but, well, in head-to-head contest, the Buffalo Bills beat Kansas City this season. Well, but Kansas City is the only team that ends with a 1. So for me, this really drives a lot of the philosophy. Other stats are great. Record, QBR I like, DVOA I like, EPA I absolutely love. You've seen me use intended air yards, and I've even invented stats to explain things better. So it's not that other stats are useless, it's just it all comes down to this. Because no matter what the rest of the story is, it's kind of like a murder novel or a mystery. If you've read the last chapter, it's really the most important part. The who done it, or in this case, who won it, is really what everyone's always going to come back to. So yeah, absolutely. We want to take a look at other statistics. We want to peer into the matrix. We want to complete those stories as much as possible. But for that overwhelming philosophy, for me, this who won it, the 0 or 1 championship is really the most dominant one. So for me, the way I use this is don't get hung up. Don't try and hold stats over other stats. Don't try to, put things on a pedestal or in a garbage heap. Just see them for what they are. Things to explain, things to help conceptualize or visualize the season. So because this is episode 1, I'm going to give you some teasers on some things that we will look at. Uh, the Pythagorean video, which really sparked the idea of creating Bills Mathia. I'm going to upgrade that a little bit, and we're going to take that maybe to the next level. I'm going to, of course, take a look at my own proprietary statistics, which at this point includes 3 different ones: the rule of 4, penalty, harm, and bad punt. I'm going to take a look at some of my favorite stats. The one I'm going to tease is catch rate. What do we mean by average? I'm going to maybe define that a little bit differently, and I, of course, have much more than that planned. If this sounds good to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and always check out BuffaloRumblings.com for more great content from me and other parts of the Buffalo Rumblings Network.